Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. We always like to bring to you and give you updates on what's coming up in our area. It's always good for us to hear from the people who are handling those and taking care of that. Welcome Darren Guidry to the program. Darren, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you for having us and for allowing us to share what's coming up on our council agendas this week.
Right, and Darren is the chairman, of course, of Terrebonne Parish Council. He's with District 6, and so we have a lot of those things. I know the committees are meeting this evening, but let's talk a little bit about some of the things they're going to be talking about.
Yeah, every Monday before council meetings, we have our committee meetings. We have
Right.
5 different committees that meet on various items. Say, for instance, tonight on our Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee meeting, we're going to be authorizing the parish president to sign a deal with Noble Public Adjusting Group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we, just like homeowners, if you're not satisfied with what your insurance company is telling you, you can hire a public adjusting group to come in and actually assess the damages that you had. So you have something to go by when you're, and we're in the same situation in some of our properties, and especially in our power plant, as far as, you know, trying to justify whether the power plant can be rebuilt or whether it needs to be repaired. And so we're hiring a public adjusting firm. Those are the kind of things we do at our council meetings. You know,
Right.
we do the contracts and kind of the nuts and bolts of parish government.
Right. And just kind of getting together and have people kind of decide on how we go about doing that and then turning that over to the parish to kind of coordinate.
Exactly. And, you know, what a lot of people don't realize is that during our committees, or actually during this time, during our budgeting process, this is where the council gets a chance to review with some of the departments and administration about what's going on. Other than the approving budgets for public works, for utilities, for various organizations, other than that, you know, we have a home rule charter form of government, which means the administration actually operates the department and runs the departments.
Right.
And people don't realize that because they call their councilman if their ditch needs to be dug. But technically, the councilman is not in charge of the person who digs the ditches.
Right.
The councilman can only request
Right.
that the ditch be dug,
Right.
because the public works and all those people actually work for our parish president.
Right.
And so, you know, with that said, we get a lot of phone calls as council members concerning our city utilities, which of course we don't run and operate.
Right.
All we do is approve their budget once a year, but people have been calling us because the utility bills have been high. And so, you know, I spoke with our director of utilities because I wanted answers so I can give my constituents, because we're the point of first contact.
Right.
You know, what's going on? Why is everybody's utilities bills so high? And after their explanation and looking over my bills, it didn't make me happy, but it made a little more sense. And so I wanted to explain. I pulled my bill, my most recent October bill, and my October bill from 2021, so I could see a comparison. And if you
And
look,
it's on the screen here. So Darren, we'll let you explain this so people watching at home can see. Again, it's your bill from October of last year and your bill from October of this
Yes.
year
from my house.
from your house.
And if you look under residential electric service, you look at the breakdown of charges, there is a commodity charge. That is the actual price that the parish council approved really before I came into office,
Right.
of what to charge per kilowatt hour for electricity, the commodity charge. And that's been the same. We've not raised that at all.
Right.
But if you look below that, it says energy cost. This is the charge that the city pays to buy electricity from the generators, the people who generate electricity. A year ago, that was 0.0575 cents
0.0575. Right.
per kilowatt hours.
Right.
And that is now 0.12 if you see the one right below it.
Right. And it's important to mention that your top bill is 2 months.
My top bill's 2
charges.
months because it was October after the storm.
Right.
So they billed for both the month before the storm and the month after they came,
Right.
when the power came back up.
When the power came back up. So just important to make that distinction.
So if you look at the total, you know, I had 6,427 kilowatt hours last year, and
Right.
it cost me around a little over $600. This year I had 3,361,
right.
about half, but yet the charge is close to $600.
Yeah.
So now, what justifies the energy cost? Well, when we fill up our car with gas a year ago, it was about half of what it costs us to fill up our car today.
Right.
It's purely the cost of energy, the cost of fuel, what's going on in Washington, which is, helps drive up the cost by not allowing our local energy people to produce energy and help reduce some of the cost of our fuel.
Right.
This has nothing to do with the storm. Understand, because we're the city of Houma, we qualify for FEMA reimbursement to rebuild our system. So we don't have to pass that on to the customers.
Right.
Entergy's not like that. They pass it on to the customers as a storm restoration fee, and we don't. So that's why we're cheaper than Entergy.
Right.
But heck, I mean, our energy cost has been doubled, and that's why our rates are so high.
Right.
You know,
and it's just one of those things that helps people, I think, understand that it's nothing that anybody's trying to do to make money back up. It's simply the cost to get the energy to you.
it's the cost that we pay to buy electricity
To buy
from the
it
generators
and get it to people.
and they're controlled on how much profit they can make. So
That is correct.
So they're passing on, other than their profit, they're passing on all the extra costs onto us.
Onto us. And that's just one of those things. So it's a great description, knowing about what the parish can do and knowing what's happening at our city power. A whole lot to discuss there at that meeting on Wednesday.
Well, at our council meeting, of course, we do our proclamations and commendations, and we will, proclaim November 11th as Veterans Day in Terrebonne Parish.
Oh, that's right.
Of
Very
course, so
good.
we have our parish declaration that will occur. We're also going to commend Mr. Hans Geist, the local artist who painted that mural on the side of the building for Terrebonne's 200 celebration. Did a great job. We're going to give a commendation, as well as commending the Bayou Community Foundation in recognition of their 10th anniversary. That's a group that does a lot of good for our parish.
And just so you know, several people asked me about that mural. They wanted to know exactly where it was. So I kind of showed them for the weekend of the festival last weekend, or weekend before last. And so they were really excited about being able to see it. So it's really nice to go and recognize Hans.
And I'm working with our parish president. Hans is presenting us a proposal to do a huge mural on side of our government tower.
Oh, wow.
Of a blue heron. And it is unbelievably beautiful, and I think would add to the beautification. And he's offering it to us at a fairly reasonable price. So that's something in our budget items that we will be discussing and working on.
Okay, great.
And I think would be good. Some of our other items, a lot of the things we do as a council, we do by ordinance.
Right.
And an ordinance has to be introduced, held over for 2 weeks, and then we have a public hearing. And if the public doesn't object, then the ordinance usually passes.
Right.
And we will have public hearings on Wednesday on several items. One of them is a public hearing on a subdivision called Park Place subdivision. It's on East Street. It's a development for affordable homes,
Right.
In conjunction with the federal government. And there is a item to switch from single-family residential zoning
Okay.
for it to be zoned two-family or multifamily. So, this is something that the public needs to be aware of.
Right.
And if you're concerned about having multifamily, which is apartments or anything like that, multifamily type facilities in that Parkwood Place subdivision, please attend this public hearing on Wednesday evening. We'll also be doing some routine things, like we'll approve by ordinance a lease with the property owners that own the property on Isle of Cuba Road right now, where we have like our auxiliary dumping facility,
Right.
where people can bring their garbage, and we're going to renew that as part of some of the regular things we do. We're also going to enter a cooperative endeavor agreement with the North Lafourche Levee District concerning some levee improvements. That's really a North Lafourche project. We just have to do this cooperative endeavor agreement. Part of it's in Terrebonne Parish.
Right. And just the partnering that we do with our neighboring parishes.
Correct. And we also, we approve budgets once a year for the next year.
Right.
But then during the year, we have budget changing amendments, which we have to do by ordinance, which can move money around or, recognize money when it comes.
Right. Reallocate that money when it comes in. Sometimes it's more than we expect. I know that's rare, but nice to be able to allocate that.
But
by
we do
ordinance.
get some grants. There's some things like through the Houma Police Department that we'll be discussing that it can is often some grant revenue. You'll see a change of $6,000, which is usually a grant that HPD receives. But we're also going to be approving the $5.885 million for the Brady Road replacement. You know, this is funds that we're recognizing that's FEMA reimbursable.
Right.
And so that money is going to be actually put into that project at our council meeting on Wednesday following that public hearing, assuming there's no objection.
Right.
And then Humboldt Police Department also has a $15,500 grant.
Okay.
So, you know, the HPD does a good job with Captain Bobby O'Brien does a lot of work with that and helping trying to get a lot of the grants that that we need to help subsidize our budget and do things that we just can't do on a regular basis.
Right. That's wonderful. Upwards of $20,000, over $20,000 in grant monies.
Right. So those are some of the things that will be going on our Wednesday meeting. And remember, even if you're not on the agenda, because we usually put agenda items that have an action.
Right.
Like if we're able to do something about it. But we have some people who want to come and share their concerns to the council. And it might be something that the council doesn't have direct purview over. It might be something the federal government has or something that administration has.
Right.
We do have a segment that they can speak for 3 minutes on any matter related to parish government. They just have to come and fill out a speaker card. But you know, we can't get into discussions because it's not an agenda item. But some people will call us wanting to put items on the agenda that are just discussion items that we have no control over. You know, that's not something we do. We do that under the public comment time.
Right.
The discussions on our agenda items are items that the Terrebonne Parish Council has purview over.
Right. And they can discuss. So some of these things that come up may be under the heading of things that are under your purview. Some are not. And that way you can listen to those things and we can listen for the next agenda as per needed.
Like FEMA housing. We have very little control over FEMA housing.
Right.
And how,
But that's a
state
hot
roads.
topic that people are talking about. The grass being cut on state roads. It keeps coming up. I know somebody asked me about it this weekend. I had to clarify. Tell me where that is, and I'll tell you if that's a parish issue, if that's a state issue. Because that's one of those things that even our parish, can't do anything about except express that we have the wish, the need for that to be cut. So,
But that's something that we have on our agenda, that public comment area. It's part of our home rule charter.
right.
And, you know, it gives the public an opportunity to at least share their concerns.
Right. And you will be heard. It will be documented. You may not be able to discuss it, but you certainly will be heard and it'll be documented as part of those minutes.
Our meeting's this Wednesday.
This Wednesday. Very good. Darren, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Keith. Thank
All
you.
right. Very good. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou time when we continue.